Hello and welcome back to the layout build series. Today we'll be going over the prototype footage of the sugar mill and doing our first scratch build. So let's get started. Alright, so here is the sugar mill on the other side of the yard. This is the area I'm currently working on at the moment. Obviously mine is downsized tremendously, but I still do want to model all the equipment and the random junk around in this area. You can use this to get ideas of what you want to put in places you don't have anything. Not sure the story on this, but it is pretty cool. Now we're on the other side where some of the tracks are. You can see the stored cars on the end. Here's a couple cool shots I got on the other side of the fence. And this is where those cars were at the beginning of the small yard. They even had the red flag there sitting next to the switch. So hopefully you did learn a couple things and now you know what my inspirations are. So the first thing I did get done was I did remove the tree that was here and I replaced it with a container. And that's purely just to see the yard just a little bit better. Now it's time for the scratch build. It's actually nothing crazy and it's pretty simple, but it's the sign to the sugar mill. Here's all I'll need for now. Square tubes will replicate the post. The first two pieces will be 2 inches long and will be the height of the sign. Someday I will have to make one of those polystyrene cutting board things. The next two pieces were cut at about 1.3 inches. Those will be my cross beams. But before gluing, we must sand down all rough edges. To get both pieces sanded evenly, I put some tape on to hold them together, and then I sand them in sync. Now we have all our pieces, and now we can see how they look together. We then simply glue them together using the quick drying Tamiya glue. We then cut out the boards for the signs on each side. I just measured the frame to get the right size. And now we have the full frame of the sign complete, and we also have a 14 gauge wire in one of the tubes just so we could stick it in the foam. But before we do that, I do want to get some dirt laid down first. So what I did is I printed a couple pictures of the sign, and we're just going to simply cut them out and glue them on the frame. I used the rulers on Google Docs to relatively figure out the size on the actual screen of my computer. Tacky glue is used for the job. All that's needed is a little bit of trimming and a little bit of weathering. Although it's a very simple build, I'm still really happy with how it turned out. So like I said before, I need to put dirt here before you put the sign down. Time to work on this spot here. That spot is on the right side of the road. To raise the ground up a little, I'll be using Sculpt-A-Mold. I work with the Sculpt-A-Mold until it gets firm, which takes about 15 minutes. So while the Sculpt-A-Mold does dry, I'm going to place a sign down, and I also got another telephone pole to put next to it, just like the prototype. And to cover up the glue, I put a little bit of dirt. Once that was done, I decided to get some more scenery and trees down on the layout. The scenery was just done at the base of the trees, and instead of the static grass, I ended up using the fine turf burnt grass I have. I think this will look a little bit better than the static grass next to the Douglas firs. I also use a lot of twigs and rocks that I found outside to use on the scene. I even found a twig that looks like a dead tree. Now it's not completely dry yet, but you can still envision how nice it'll be once it is. So at this point, all that scenery is done, and we have the signs and poles done. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put dirt over the Sculpt-A-Mold we put down before, which is the same process as all the other times. Alright, that's going to be the end of episode 18. Hopefully you guys did enjoy as always, and hopefully you guys learned a little bit more about kind of what I'm going for in the future. And on that note, I will see you guys in next week's episode.